Aaron Rodgers has spoken out on the New York Jets GM search, and with the GM search coming down to some finalists, it is very important to see what happens, as it'll determine Aaron Rodgers' future in both the NFL and with the New York Jets, while also discussing potential coaches, with Aaron Glenn still being the favorite for the Jets head coach, while Rodgers also shouted out Mike McCarthy for the job he did with the Dallas Cowboys, McCarthy obviously being Aaron Rodgers' former coach on the Packers. And we're going to break it all down. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Jets Digest. It's Chris and Matt here, and we're going to jump right into things as always. Matt, I don't know what is going on with your screen right now, but 20% of people are subscribed right now, but you're not allowed to see it because Matt's screen has completely just decided to bug out on us. But Aaron Rodgers has announced, or he really just spoke out a lot on the New York Jets, on their GM search, on his future with the Jets, what he wants to do and what he plans to do once a new GM and a new head coach is hired. Now, taking a look at what Rodgers said, he mentioned basically, as it failed, so there it is. He said, I think everybody understands that it's going to come down to a GM and a coach and myself and whether we all want to do a dance together or if it's not in the cards. Now, on top of that, it was mentioned by Rich Cimini that priority number one for the new regime will be determining whether to move on with Aaron Rodgers, who's 41 years old, who reiterated he's still mulling retirement, coming off an Achilles surgery. Rodgers, he started every game for the Jets, passed for 3,897 yards, 28 touchdowns, and threw 11 interceptions. Rodgers described two exit meetings, one with Woody Johnson, the other with Vice Chairman Christopher Johnson, Woody's brother, and Team President Jaime Alei. Speaking of the latter meeting, he said that he made constructive suggestions regarding the team operations, everything from travel to cafeteria food. So basically standard stuff that Aaron Rodgers would do. One, he's a superstar, so it's part of the matter. And I understand he's not still an NFL superstar. He's not one of the best players in the NFL anymore. However, he is still the franchise quarterback as of today. And with that being the case, you do look at things and understand that's not that weird for him to suggest cafeteria food. I imagine that's something plenty of franchise players do. And yes, I think Garrett Wilson is the franchise player, but in Aaron Rodgers' mind, and probably in most of the New York Jets' minds as of today, Aaron Rodgers is still the man in which this team was built around. There's no doubt about it. So you look at Aaron Rodgers, you look at the comments he's made, you look at his interest in basically seeing who the Jets hire, and I do think that's really what a lot of this is going to come down to, is who the New York Jets are going to hire, because it goes both ways, Matt. It's not a guarantee. This isn't the Packers where no matter what happens, you have Aaron Rodgers who's coming off 2 MVPs. This isn't the case anymore. Rodgers is not 3 years removed from those 2 MVPs, really 2 seasons, but still same deal. And you see the way Rodgers has played. He's been good with the Jets. I mean, those numbers, they rival the numbers Patrick Mahomes put up this season. I understand Mahomes is 20 million times better this season, but it rivals those numbers. Statistically, one of the greatest seasons in New York Jets quarterback history. You have to look at this and understand that it's going to go both ways. It depends on if Rodgers likes the coach brought in, which is most likely going to be Aaron Glenn, and if he likes the GM who's going to be brought in, which there is, Matt, you did make a video on this where essentially describing it is down to going to be 2 to 3 people according to Rich Cimini. So it depends on if Aaron Rodgers likes them, and it also depends on if they like Aaron Rodgers. As I said earlier, it's not the same deal. Aaron Rodgers is 41 years old. The Jets missed the playoffs and went 5-12. Rodgers tore his Achilles since joining the Jets. There's a lot of reasons to move on from him and toss yourselves right into a rebuild with a year where you're seeing guys like Nico Iamaleava. I got it so good the first time I said it too. Damn. And also Arch Manning and potentially Drew Aller if he doesn't come out. So, Matt, it is a very, very interesting thing to see. Personally, I still think there's a better chance of Rodgers coming back than most people do. I think Rodgers sounds like he wants to come back. Now, maybe he's just saying that. I do think Rodgers has interest in returning to the Jets. Where do you stand?
First of all, it definitely does sound like Aaron Rodgers is interested in coming back to the New York Jets, because he said stuff like is willing to take a pay cut to stay with the Jets. And now he's talking about meeting with the ownership and the new owners to stay on the team. He's going to meet with those guys because the most important player in any NFL team is the quarterback. Unless you're a really, really bad team. Like, the Raiders' most important player is not their quarterback, and the Browns. And those two teams have something in common. They're top 6 draft picks. So if you are a successful team, the most important player is the quarterback. He has say in the front office decisions, and all of the front office decisions need to be made with that player, that quarterback in mind. So Aaron Rodgers, of course, is going to have a ton of say in what's going on with the franchise. he historically, I know he's had too much say with what's going on, and that's annoying. Chris, you mentioned how the team is built around Aaron Rodgers, and that at first sounded strange to me because he's only been here for a couple of years when there are players who have been here for more, and it doesn't always make a ton of sense to trade for a player. He, we said we were a piece away. We said we were a quarterback away. Then we trade for that piece. You don't usually say the team's built around that piece, but it is because he was able to pick Nathaniel Hackett, pick Randall Cobb, pick a bunch of Packers guys. We might be getting Mike McCarthy as well to add to that Packers contingency on the New York Jets.
Also, real quick, Alan Lazard.
I don't count Alan Lazard. I think Alan Lazard was coming off a really good season, and I think that contract was for the New York Jets. And I think the New York Jets were excited to have him on the team, regardless of if Aaron Rodgers was going to be with the Jets or not. So I don't count Alan Lazard as an Aaron Rodgers signing, even though he has played horribly once he got here. I think the contract he signed made a ton of sense at the time, and I was excited for that signing at the time. So going forwards, whoever the GM is, the first thing they are going to do is establish first they want to make sure they settle everything down in the franchise. Right now the entire New York Jets organization is in flux, of course, because they need a new head coach and a new general manager. So the first thing they got to do is just calm everyone down. And part of calming everyone down is answering the number one question that's in everyone's head: what are they going to do with Aaron Rodgers? So one school of thinking is they're going to want to get as much contract cap space flexibility as possible going forwards, which means they would go ahead and cut Aaron Rodgers and cut Devontae Adams. That is the most likely outcome because the GM is going to want to put his own stamp on the team and make it his own team. So when or if he gets fired, he would be getting fired because of mistakes he made, not mistakes that were made by Joe Douglas or Woody Johnson before the GM got here. So the GM is going to want to build the team in his image. The coach is going to want to pick his guys as well to build the roster in the coach's image and get the scheme working as the coach intends it to. So they don't want to be paying for stuff that happens in the past. That Aaron Rodgers contract is going to hurt the Jets long term no matter what. You have to imagine the GM, the first thing they're going to want to do is cut Aaron Rodgers to give themselves more flexibility. So Aaron Rodgers, I agree with you. I think he is the best of a bad group of potential quarterbacks for next year. There's no guy that sticks out as honestly any good. There's no quarterback out there, draft-wise, free agent-wise, even like trade market-wise. There's no quarterback out there that we look and think, this is a guy that can turn the franchise around. So, honestly, I think Aaron Rodgers is the best shot to turn the franchise around because he's the only quarterback with Super Bowl type of experience and the only quarterback that has the experience that you need. We know he has the talent. Maybe, he's losing it because he's getting old, but he definitely has it in him. So I definitely think Aaron Rodgers is the best option at quarterback for at least one more year. And like you said, he's really, really bad again. So what? We'll get another top 10. We'll get a really high draft pick. And it doesn't have to be a top 3 draft pick to get one of those elite quarterbacks because there could be more quarterbacks. There could be more guys that play really, really well in college football in 2025 and earn themselves into that top round. And also, the Jets could always trade up to go get one of those quarterbacks. The point is, if Aaron Rodgers is good, they're not going to need another quarterback. And if he's bad, then they'll be able to replace him via the draft.
I think speaking on Rodgers also, he just clearly gives the Jets the best chance to win. You don't stumble into nearly 4,000 passing yards. Like, that doesn't happen. Like, Aaron Rodgers, for all the things that you could say about this year and how much it sucked as a Jets fan, and for all the reasons why Aaron Rodgers is clearly not the same guy, he doesn't suck. It's not like he's bad. The problem is, you look at every quarterback that is not Sam Darnold, who's a free agent, miserable. Not to just trash NFL quarterbacks, but this is a bad free agent class. It's rare to see a great quarterback hit free agency at all. This isn't the NBA, and the NBA is even going away from that. It's not the MLB where every great player specifically hits free agency no matter what. The NFL, you don't see franchise quarterbacks ever hit free agency. Joe Burrow in his prime is never going to be a free agent. That's never happening. Lamar Jackson, same deal. Maybe eventually when they're older, like Aaron Rodgers might be right now. You didn't see Rodgers middle of his career in his prime, unless I'm really mistaken, hit free agency and test the open market to leave. Like, I think it's so clear that if you want to still try to win, you put Aaron Rodgers back in this team next season. And speaking of Mike McCarthy, how you kind of started on that thing on your commenting, like, Aaron Rodgers spoke on him and said he's a hell of a ball coach. What he did this year with the amount of injuries that they had, I thought it was amazing. Amazing. Here's the thing. If Mike McCarthy were to be hired by the New York Jets, which he's not going to be, I'm convinced it's Aaron Glenn, you know Rodgers is coming back. It's very clear that if the Jets were to
he would want to come back, but it's still up to the GM.
I think McCarthy would probably be able to have a lot of pull. If they anywhere Mike McCarthy goes, because he's got Super Bowl pedigree, he'll have more pull than, like, if the Jets hired Mike McCarthy, he'd have more front office pull than Aaron Glenn, I would imagine. That's just my understanding of McCarthy. Literally is a Super Bowl champion with Aaron Rodgers. Like,
but Aaron Glenn, if the GM was Spielman, then Aaron Glenn would have just as much pull.
Yeah,
but keep going.
If it becomes Chris Spielman, then Aaron Glenn does. In that specific situation, and I still would love for it to be Chris Spielman or the guy with great hair and a Russian name who I just can't remember his name for the life.
Dimitrov.
Yeah, Thomas Dimitrov. I always want to say Kirk something. Maybe I'm just thinking of Kirk Day of Yankees Digest, who makes a ton of our thumbnails. Shout out Kirk Day, man. What a guy. But he's not Russian. He's Canadian. But like, if the Jets were to hire Spielman, yes. If they were to hire Chris Spielman, then yes, Aaron Glenn is a ton of pull because they know each other. However, if they don't, and the Jets were to, out of the blue, interview and hire Mike McCarthy, I think McCarthy can go up, and first of all, he's a hard-nosed guy. He's not going to be afraid to challenge people. Especially, he'll probably say in the coaching interview, because you have to imagine that Woody Johnson is going to be asking, because Woody and Aaron have bumped heads, and I'd imagine Woody does not love the idea of Aaron Rodgers coming back. I don't think he'd hate it, because I'm going to say he understands, but I will never say that about Woody Johnson. I don't think he'd hate having Aaron Rodgers back because it's flashy and he's Aaron Rodgers and he puts butts in the seats and gets tickets. But at the end of the day, I think that every single coach and GM who's been interviewed, one of the first questions is, what would you do with Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams? Do you want them on the team next year? And I think that will have an impact positively or negatively. And since Woody Johnson is such a on-the-surface level viewer who's a buffoon, I believe that he could be swayed either way depending on who gives the best answer. So I think there's a world where Rodgers comes back. I will say right now, just because we're wrapping this thing up, I give it a higher chance than most people for Rodgers to come back. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 meaning he's so gone, 10 meaning he's guaranteed to come back, I give it like a 4, maybe a 4.5, which is like way higher than I think most people would expect, who would throw it at like 2. Like Samini predicted 2 days ago that Rodgers is gone.
Yeah, I would give him a 3.5 or a 4. The number I was thinking was 4 as well, but the way you're talking about it makes me think that maybe, because I'm definitely think he's less likely to come back than you are, but I do disagree with the people who are just treating him like he's already gone, because we would know. If he was already gone, we would know.
He would have said it. He's Aaron Rodgers. He doesn't hide stuff very often. He goes on Pat McAfee every week. He would have said if he's leaving the Jets. It's where he announced he was going to the Jets. Like, he's a pretty, for all the things Aaron Rodgers is, one of the nice things about him when you're a fan is that he's an open book, and that is nice. I think there's a very, very good chance he's in a Jets jersey next year. I truly don't even see another team outside of the Steelers that he would go to. Maybe he goes to the Steelers.
So the Steelers announced yesterday, I believe, that they have no interest in him should he become available. And what was interesting about that post, I'm actually going to bring it up right now. There was very interesting wording on it. I need to get the name of the person who put this out, but he said if and when Aaron Rodgers becomes available. Here it is. The Steelers would have no interest in Jets quarterback Aaron Rodgers if and when he becomes available, per Jerry Dulac. So is that a Steelers beat writer?
Old Jerry Dews, dude.
Yeah.
JD. Yeah, obviously that's my best friend to this day.
Let's see. Journalist. Yeah, he's just some Steelers journalist, but if and when Aaron Rodgers becomes available, I heard that and I was thinking like, yeah, didn't realize it was a when thing.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, Matt, I think that Aaron Rodgers should just hurl oranges at you. If I'm being real,
I can't imagine what I've done to deserve that.
I don't really know. I just think it'd be great. I think that would be excellent Jets Digest content.
I was going to say it would probably be great for the viewership of the channel.
Guys, if you guys want to see Aaron Rodgers hurl oranges at Matt, comment down below and we'll try to make that happen. I don't really know how. I'll probably have to somehow climb over Aaron Rodgers' fence and get mauled by his security and force-fed ayahuasca. But I'll do it for you guys. Guys, like this video, subscribe, turn on post notifications. Have a great day, and let's throw oranges at Matt.